that should strike fear into the power brokers who are trying to suppress us. That a significant portion, 38% of the people were awake. Yes, we didn't win, but I don't think we lost either. They might have won a battle, but I think the youth that you see here, that's how we're going to win the war.
You may recall the bizarre story of Dave Bylsma, the now ex-mayor of West Lincoln, Ontario. Last August, Canada Games festivities were scheduled for West Lincoln. Namely, the town was staging an event to welcome Saskatchewan's athletes and officials, and naturally, Mayor Bylsma was going to be part of that event. Alas, given that the weather forecast that day looked quite ominous, heavy rain was expected, the event was moved indoors so that participants wouldn't be drenched. Now, at first blush, that doesn't seem to be a big deal, but it turned out to be a very big deal indeed, at least for Mayor Bylsma. That's because since the outdoor event turned into an indoor event, the mayor couldn't offer his welcoming remarks to the Saskatchewan delegation. Alas, West Lincoln Township had a vaccination policy in effect at the time, which is to say, in order to protect staff, council, and the community from the continued spread of COVID-19, one had to be fully vaccinated in order to gain entry to township property. And that included Mayor Bylsma. Well, talk about a not so insignificant hitch, because Mayor Bylsma went from being the mayor of West Lincoln to a modern-day version of Typhoid Mary, given his vaccination status.
Our vaccine policy in the municipality of West Lincoln prohibits anybody on staff who is not vaccinated from entering any of the municipal buildings. I am not allowed in my own office. I'm not allowed in my own office. I sign bylaws on the hood of my car. I am not allowed to council meetings in person. I do those on Zoom. And I was going to give greetings on the open stage, which would have been allowed, but because it's been moved indoors, I'm no longer allowed to give greetings. I had some discussions with staff about the ridiculousness that people are allowed, the public is allowed, and I can attend, I guess, as a citizen, but I can't fulfill my duties as mayor because I am unjabbed.
As a result of this vaccine apartheid, a protest erupted outside the venue in support of Mayor Bylsma, and for that matter, anyone else who wasn't keen on taking an experimental coronavirus vaccine. Recently, we caught up with Mayor Bylsma at Fringy Family Day, which commemorated the first anniversary of the Ottawa Freedom Convoy. Check out our interview with the now former mayor of West Lincoln.
It had nothing to do, we understand that it had nothing to do with health and safety. It was a scheme or a plan to get compliance, to get obedience, to test the waters, to see what kind of resistance there would be in the community. The fact that I was asked to give greetings to the province of Saskatchewan for a cultural event that was running alongside the Canada Games. A storm was predicted. It was an outside event, so there was no problem. However, when the storm was predicted, it was going to be quite violent. They moved the whole works indoors. Our municipal policy is that any unvaxxed individual could not enter any of the municipal buildings. Ergo, they treat me as a mayor, an elected official, nonetheless, as an employee of the municipality. And I argued,
sounds like they were treating you like Typhoid Mary.
Well, I argued that, first of all, as an elected official, I don't work for the government. I have no contract with them. I'm not there at their whim. I'm there at the good graces of the municipality that elected me. That was the first point. The second point is how ridiculous it is. John Q. Public from my municipality was not checked for their vaccine status at the door. They were allowed freely to go in, and yet the mayor of said municipality is not allowed in for a policy reason. So it had, again, nothing to do with health and safety. Many members from my community admitted to me and to the people at the door, I'm not jabbed and I'm allowed in, but the mayor is not allowed to send greetings, even stand on a podium above and separated from everybody and give greetings in his own municipality. Well, the hypocrisy, the ridiculousness of that was just obvious to any. In a 90-minute span, after talks broke down with my staff, arguing my case, I decided to just form a polite protest. 90 minutes, we had 450 people show up. They were flag waving. They were polite. There were no F Trudeaus or anything like that. It was a very family-oriented event. There were people in strollers. There were grandparents and stuff like that. The point was made locally. The media, of course, ran with this and said, I fettered the whole event. But if you were from Saskatchewan, you had no idea what was happening in a local politics, you would have been greeted by 450 flag-waving, very enthusiastic people, shilling and supporting and calling for our freedoms to be restored. So, how ridiculous, that's not what, of course, the mainstream media put forward as the gist of the story. Is the mayor fettering the cultural event that was happening, and how dare he? Look, that was the culmination of 17 or 25 different events where I was asking questions about said narrative, and of course that cast me in pretty much the same barrel as Rebel News
Well, Dave, yours is a crazy story. I mean, we were told to follow the science. There was zero science involved in that. And, when the left wonders, why was there such anger on Parliament Hill last year? Why were there all these trucks and these demonstrators? Well, what happened to you? And that's just one story of millions that came out the last few years of how people were treated as basically second-class citizens in this country for vaccination status.
I'm very thankful that I did not have to bear this alone. One of the councillors on our council is Harold Jonker. Nonetheless, Harold Jonker here was trucker number 1 into Ottawa at that time, and consequently, he was also complained against. The integrity commissioner did an examination of all the evidence and decided that he too needed to be penalized. So he lost wages for his involvement in the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. I think it's just atrocious that things that I'd lost about a month and a week worth of wages for speaking out. I didn't jump on the bandwagon of Black Lives Matter. I said all lives matter because that's really important to me. I'm a pro-life, pro-Canadian individual, but
Jeez, I'm surprised you're not in a jail cell right now.
All lives matter lost me a week's wages. Oh, no. All lives matter. I had proof that Morgan Freeman said it. I had proof that the governor of Virginia said it, as a black man. And yet they couldn't come up with any evidence.
It's true. Of course all lives matter.
But they called it a dog whistle for white supremacy.
Oh, my God.
That was how flimsy the system. So that system of integrity commission is flawed in the sense it's being used as a political billy club to silence dissent, to silence conservative thought. Really standard thought. I referred to myself in a private message, like I'm a businessman as well, and I referred to myself as a pureblood, and that I was looking for people who were unjabbed, and that got me, I lost a month's wages for that one.
Well, look at the bright side. You didn't have your bank account frozen.
No. You know what? Hey, I had a lot of support during my failed re-election attempt. I had a lot of support. That is meaningful to me because I was not a dull character, or I was not a bland character. I had one that championed freedom in Canada, one that championed freedom of expression, freedom of association. All of these things was very clear. So then I know that I had the 38% that did vote for me were people who were awake, and that should strike fear into the power brokers who are trying to suppress us. That a significant portion, 38% of the people were awake. Yes, we didn't win, but I don't think we lost either. They might have won a battle, but I think the youth that you see here, that's how we're going to win the war.
Well, the big battle will be the next federal election. We'll have to see what happens. And sure. Dave, thank you for your time.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak my mind. Thank you. All right.
Sir. Well, folks, here we are in the countryside just outside of Hamilton, Ontario. We're covering Family Fringy Day, but you don't see any members of the mainstream media here, do you?
Well, you know, we endeavor to bring you the other side of the story. So if you can help us out, I'd greatly appreciate that. Please go to rebelfieldreports.com. That's rebelfieldreports.com. And if you're able to, kick in $1 or $3.